Welcome back. Here are the numbers. 232,000 migrant encounters recorded at the southern border in the month of August. That marks the highest number for August on record. In this fiscal year alone, there have been 2.2 million migrant encounters. Last week was one of the busiest at the border. 10,000 migrants entered the country in just one day in Eagle Pass, Texas. Now Eagle Pass is declaring a state of emergency. Joining me right now is Texas Congressman August Pfluger. He's a member of the Homeland Security and Energy and Commerce Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. You are currently in Eagle Pass right now. Thanks for going back to the border, Congressman. What can you tell us? What have you witnessed?
Well, Maria, thanks for having me and thanks for covering this. It's a complete disaster. Just like you showed, those numbers suggest a worsening of the policy that Biden has completely abdicated his responsibility for securing our country. And there are thousands of people that are coming through Eagle Pass every single day. I was here last night. We saw hundreds, if not maybe even 1,000 people just in a short amount of time. And everyone is coming because they know that the ability to get here, the lack of deportation, the lack of security, and a wide open border exists. We need President Biden to stand up right now. When we go back to Washington, D.C., this is my first priority. There's no funding without actually securing the border. And I'm proud of the Speaker for passing H.R. 2 earlier, that I'm on the Homeland Security Committee that wrote that legislation. Now it's time to take that stand, protect America, and get our border back secure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier. I spoke with one of your colleagues, and, he was saying, I said, look, why are we spending $113 billion to help Ukraine, helping the Ukrainian border, and we haven't sent a dime to the U.S. border? And he said, the border doesn't need money, it needs policy. And I totally agree with that. But how do you hold the line from an appropriation standpoint? I know you're going to be working on Homeland Security, that bill getting through this week. What is it going to look like?
Well, I think that we've done something smart on this, but you're right. We do need policy. But the funding is a separate issue. And what we're going to get, I think what you're going to see happen is an appropriations bill for DHS that's pulled to the side until the administration gets serious about border security, about H.R. 2, the most conservative border security plan in decades. And that's going to be the leverage that we have. But this is the moment. Texans are waiting for this moment. America is waiting for this moment. There are so many people being affected negatively, and we need to take a stand. The administration is completely chaotic about their approach. We have 7 million people since they've been in power, and that's unacceptable. Let me just, switch the camera around right here. You can see the processing. It's early in the morning, and you can see the processing happening behind me. It's a nonstop stream of people. Yes, these stories are tragic, but you know what else is tragic? It's tragic for communities like mine. It's tragic for the 100,000 plus fentanyl deaths that we've experienced in our country. It's tragic for the crime that is rampant that the cartels are causing, and it's tragic that the United States of America has ceded control of our southern border to the cartels. That's unacceptable.
It's unbelievable. Absolutely. What you're saying is absolutely spot on. Congressman, when I was there a couple of times, I heard so many stories about individuals getting attacked from the dangerous cartels. What have you learned in terms of how influential these cartels are? They're basically making the decisions. They're deciding who comes into the country and who doesn't come in, and they're pocketing billions of dollars, right?
It's unreal. I talked to many families last night, many people last night, not just families. And by the way, most of these are single males between the age of 18 and about 35 years old. But there was one lady from Venezuela who was brutally attacked. She and her husband kidnapped, separated, brutally attacked. She showed the scars on her face, the place on her head where it required 30 plus stitches. These are the kinds of things that are happening. You're right. The cartels decide who lives and who dies, what you pay, and who gets to go through. And every single person we talked to was paying hundreds and thousands of dollars. And guess what? I was here on the border almost exactly 2 years ago where there were 15,000 plus Haitians under a bridge in Del Rio. Now I'm in Eagle Pass. It's the same situation. Nothing has changed except it's gotten worse, and that is because of President Biden's failed border policies.
And that's the common ground that you have with all of your colleagues. They want the border to be secure. That seems to be the leverage in terms of getting something done to fund the government. The clock is ticking as the House scrambles to keep the government funded by the end of the week. It is looking more likely, though, that we'll see a shutdown. I know that you and your colleagues will work on these 4 appropriations bills this week to help fund the government. What are you expecting in terms of how this plays out? Because, you know, Byron Donalds had worked on that one bill where you were going to continue in a continuing resolution, but you had the border as the priority in terms of common ground. But you've got those 5 Republicans who nixed it.
Well, I think what you'll see is we are going to work on the 4 appropriations bills. We are going to show the American public that we're serious about cutting the debt and moving in the right direction to get us fiscally sound and in a much better place. There's no question, and I agree with everything that's been said, especially from the Freedom Caucus members, that we have to bend the curve. By the way, my friend Jody Arrington, budget chairman, is doing exactly that. Separate issue, the lack of border security. We have to use this time, and if we can't pass all 12 appropriations bills, which I think is going to be very difficult by the 30th, then we need to look at a way that we can get a policy win, and that policy win is clearly border security. The president has put our country in jeopardy. 150-plus people match the terror watch list. Thousands, dozens of thousands of people who are cartel or criminal offenders who come into this country unchecked. We have to send them a message. Let's unify as Republicans, get the work done to start the appropriations process in a fiscally responsible manner, and then put ourselves into a place where we can get a win on policy. And that is absolutely number one policy. The line in the sand must be drawn on border security.
Yeah, and the number one policy, according to the Biden administration, is its climate change agenda, Congressman. And you know the impact of that better than most, given that your district is the district that actually has the most important capacity for oil production in the entire country. So what has been the impact, from your standpoint, of Joe Biden's plans on energy and canceling these leases?
Well, it's just unbelievable. It falls into the category of you can't make this up. And when it comes to his mandate for EVs, the fact that they have no idea where electricity is even going to come from at the same time that they're canceling oil and gas leases, whether they're in the Anwar region, whether they're offshore, whether they're on federal lands in places like New Mexico, they're actually canceling the very primary sources of energy that are going to deliver the electricity that we need. This is something that I ask every administration official when they come in to testify. You'd think that they do their research, but I ask them, how much electricity does the United States use on an annual basis, and how much is it going to take if we implement the policies, the very poorly thought out policies that you want on EVs? And not a single person, including Secretary Granholm, including anyone else in the administration, can answer that question, which is very disappointing but not surprising. Let's use what we have. Let's put Midland over Moscow. Let's absolutely unleash American energy in places like the Permian and the Bakken and the Marcellus, and let's get back onto the road of energy security and energy dominance.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, we'll be watching your work. Thanks very much for joining us this morning from Eagle Pass, Texas. Thank you, sir. August Pfluger joining us.
Thank you.